Hello, everybody. I'm Erin. My presentation today is called Vibe Coding using AI to jazz up your LibGuides. So, a little hand poll. Who here knows what vibe coding is or heard of it? Okay, we've got a few vibe coders. Okay, well, who uses Spring Share LibGuides? Okay, almost everybody does. So you know what a LibGuide is? Awesome. Okay, then I have less explaining to do than I thought. Sweet. So here we go. So I am an instructional design librarian at West Point in the United States Military Academy. I've been there about 2 years now. And I'm going to talk today about coding, computer coding. And I just want to show you how much coding experience I have. So in 1998, I took a class in C programming at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And so if you don't know how to code, you are in good company because I don't either. So, and that's the cool thing about vibe coding is you don't actually know how to code to still do cool stuff with your LibGuides. So today we're going to talk about what vibe coding is, why I even started using it at West Point on our website. I have some kind of fun before and after screenshots. We're going to talk about sort of the process, and then I was going to do a live demo, but it turns out I was advised not to do a live demo because there's like 4 websites I'd have to have open, and so you're going to get my sort of live vibe coding with screenshots when I talk to my AI. We're going to do a super quick run through about how to add vibe code to your LibGuides. And then some tips, lessons learned, questions. Feel free to ask questions if it's confusing. But here we go. So vibe coding is basically partnering with an AI tool to write code for you. So I don't know how to write code, but I know how to ask the AI what I want, and it writes the code for me like magic. We all know that LLMs are not magic, but it'll feel like magic when you have code that you didn't write that works. So it's just basically it's having AI code what you ask it to code. So there's a couple of reasons why why I started doing vibe coding. All right, and the first thing is SpringShare. So a lot of you use SpringShare. We use LibGuides for a lot of things, and not just for just. Oh my gosh, this thing hates me. There we go. So we don't even have a homepage that's not using LibGuides. Like our entire website is LibGuides. And while it's cool and you can make things very quick with it, the templates and the things that you can do are pretty basic, right? Like you can add images, they've got gallery boxes, but it's really pretty basic. The default templates aren't super polished. Like you can look at a library website and be like, oh, they use LibGuides. Like it's pretty obvious. But you can, if you know how to code, if you can use HTML and CSS code, you can make it look pretty cool. There's a lot you can do with it. And so we do have some IT people at West Point. So the other piece of this is at the Academy. We don't have a dedicated web developer, right? We have some great IT workers, but they don't have all day to work on the website. And so that some of that was sort of distributed around. I ended up doing a lot of work on the website. And I also am part of our West Point AI team at the library. When I say team, I mean my coworker, Lori, here's my buddy, and our friend, Jen. So that's it. So that's our AI team at the library. And one of the things that we were really working on is trying to figure out how to use AI in our work, just our personal work that we do. We do a lot of teaching about AI, but like how can we sort of show the people that we're teaching like what we do in our own work that uses AI? And so those things kind of came together, and I tried vibe coding. I actually didn't even know it was called that. I was like, how do I make code that's not mine? So vibe coding actually was a term that came out even after I started doing this. So here's some before and after to sort of show you what it's like. So this was our research guide page. Pretty standard, a list of links. You click on the link, you go to the department page, just, basic stuff. I tried to make it look a little more inviting by using a gallery box, right? I added some images there, and it looks all right. But this was the first thing I ever vibe coded. And this was what I ended up doing with my vibe code. So I created those boxes hover. When you hover over them, they have sort of that box within a box effect. The spacing turned out really great. It made this grid for me. So like, I don't know how to do any of that, right? I kept talking to my AI and saying, I don't like that. I want you to put a border on it, or I don't like how the spacing is. And it's writing me new code all the time that I can then plug in to make things look like I like. Another thing LibGuides does is pretty terrible with using horizontal space. We only have a 1-column side navigation. which makes me crazy because that's a lot of scrolling. And we know people don't like to scroll. They want everything before they scroll. So in this way, I was able to take this list of links and turn them into two horizontal rows of cards. Again, so it looks more professional. It looks like somebody did some work on the website. Another way to change, so this is our reading room rules, just again, a wall of text on the page, nobody wants to read that. So I made it an accordion. So now you have collapsible sections and they have icons. And again, it just sort of gives it that more professional look. It prevents scrolling. And it just, we work with cadets, right? So we have 4,000 cadets and they're used to professional looking websites, right? And our library website is not that. We have awesome information. It just doesn't look like it necessarily. It doesn't look professional. And so really trying to do things to make our website look more like a standard website you would get if you had, again, a web developer. This is my favorite one. So we have a teaching toolkit where basically when a librarian is teaching a class, we keep the slides, the handouts, the lesson plans all in a row. And so we just have a list of classes. We didn't even have anything on the main page, just like find the class you're teaching and click on it. And using my vibe code, I ended up having a searchable grid where you can select by class year. Again, it has all the cool, those are the department crests. It's got colors, it hovers. And so, I was able to go from literally nothing to this. And this probably took me 6-ish hours, where if you had to get your coder, like if you wanted this to be yours and you sent it out to a coder to get done, it could take days, weeks, I don't know, because I'm not a coder. But my brother tells me, who is a coder, this would take a significant amount of time to code. And again, I just kept asking the AI to give me new code, and it did. So how do you vibe code? Here's just generally how it works. So you choose an AI tool, and it really could be any of them, especially if you're just starting out, any of those kind of the big major ones, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot. And you're going to have a conversation with, right? You're going to have prompts. You're going to say, I have this page on my website that I want to look more professional. Can you do this? Then you're going to get that code, and it's going to just give you code, and you're going to paste it into your LibGuide. And then you're going to hit preview and see if it worked. And often it doesn't, right? This is one of the things about AI is that it is not perfect, right? Nothing is thinking. It is predicting text for us. It's predicting our code. And then very often you'll get it to do one thing and you're like, okay, well, that's cool. But now I want it to do this thing. Or no, it turns out I don't like that. I want it to do another thing. And this is all part of the process, right? And then you'll look for changes, and it's just very iterative, right? It's conversations over and over. You document those, you keep your code, and then you go ahead and you paste it into your LibGuide. So here's my vibe coding live, sort of. So here is a list of tutorials. I do a lot of tutorial making. We have archives and special collections, and this is just a list, right? And you're scrolling down the list. Nobody wants to read this. And so I decided I wanted to sort of take this piece and make it look better. And I didn't actually even really know what I wanted, but I just knew that it wasn't this. So I open my my AI. I use a tool called BoodleBox, which has a lot of different models in it, but it really doesn't matter. This could be any AI tool. And I just asked it, take this list of links and make it an accordion. This is where I was going to start. I want it to make it easier to see all the tutorials. And so you'll notice at the top, it says prompt, paste code result. So I'm skipping the whole part where I paste it in because it's going to take too long. So this is how I prompted it. And when I pasted this code in right here, that is what it gave me. And you can see it's super weird. It's justified all the way to the right. There's a huge amount of open space. I have no idea why it did that. And so the first thing AI and I said, okay, that looks great, but it threw up all the spacing on my page. And then it apologizes and it's like, oh, yes, of course, I'm so sorry. And then it gave me new code. So when I recopied and pasted the code again, I ended up with the accordion that you see on the right. Pretty cool, right? Now, if this was you, so I want you to all put yourself in my vibe coding shoes, and you can seriously go ahead and say, what else could we do to this to make it look better? Do not tell me you love this. Okay, the bullets are in kind of a weird spot, right? Like they're right on the edge. Why? I don't know. So yes, that's a good one. What else? What else can I do with it? How can I make it look more interesting? Yeah. Okay, right, add some color. Absolutely. So what I asked it to do in this, in my iteration was, I didn't like it how right here, this view tutorial was at the bottom. I felt like I want that up here. Like I want the link to be right there on the top of the accordion. So if you don't want to look through those bullets, you can just click on it. So I asked it to, instead of doing that, move make it a link. And I asked it to, I kept calling it the little arrow thingy, the minimum font to be 16, add the arrow thing so you can tell you're supposed to click on it. Super technical, right? I could not remember the word caret. And so instead it was the little arrow thing. I actually didn't even ask it to move the bullets, but it figured it out on its own. All right, so this is my new accordion once I pasted that code into my LibGuide. And so then what I realized once I clicked on this was I actually didn't want the link as the title, because when I clicked on it, then it didn't open the accordion at all. So if you accidentally clicked on the link, it would take you out of this to a tutorial, and that annoyed me. So I said, okay, I like it. But now when I click the title, the accordion doesn't open, basically solve that for me. And so as you can see my output, it did. It solved it for me. So it moved the tutorial button to the right. And now I can still view the tutorial right away, but if I click on the headline, it's not going to take me out of my page. So somebody already said color in terms of what else can we add here. Somebody mentioned color. Is there anything else you would do to make this look a little cooler? Yeah. Okay, images. Yeah, absolutely, right? We're all very, very visual, right? And so adding some sort of images. So absolutely, this is what those are the two things that I did here. So I actually literally asked it to jazz up my LibGuide because I think it's fun to see what it thinks there. Jazz up my LibGuide. I want it to look professional and inviting. I gave it some of our branded colors to use, and I asked it to just solve the icon situation on its own. And so what we ended up with was this on the right, where we've got, there's icons, there's colors. It made that view tutorial into a button as opposed to just a link. And now this looks pretty good, right? I like how it looks, certainly compared to just, a list of links. This looks very much more professional. And again, I mean, it takes a couple hours, right? Because you have to keep talking to it and pasting and cutting things. But in terms of what you can get doing these like little projects and sort of adding them up on your website, it really can make a big difference to make your website look and feel much more professional. And one of the things I also really like about AI is it never gets annoyed with you. And so after all of this, I was like, actually change that. I want you to make resource cards in a grid with buttons. And so it did. Right. And I didn't even have to, have a coder or developer be like, I'm not doing this for you anymore. Like, no, you're done. So that's just basically how you can take a small project like that list of links and turn it into something that fits it's more professional. You can brand it to your library, do whatever you want. And again, this is just a quick run through there. And it's actually really fun, right? To create something sort of from nothing in that way. So I'm going to go through this super duper quick. You're going to have access to these slides. If you want to do this, it's just a quick explanation about how to add vibe code in. But so I'm just going to go, if you know LibGuides, this is going to be the quick boring bit. Basically use a standard box, right? You're going to add a new box on your main page. I'll say this and I'll say this again later, work in a sandbox, right? Especially if you don't know what you're doing, do not work on a live page. You will screw it up. I have screwed up pages. Luckily, they were either in draft mode or in a sandbox because you actually don't know what the code is or what it's doing or what it means. So make sure that you don't play around on something that someone else is going to look at anytime soon. So we're going to add a box. You're going to do a standard box, right? So not a gallery or tabbed box. Again, I would use draft mode. Again, just to make sure you're not messing up anything else. You're going to add a rich text box. So who here uses some library software that's not LibGuides? Does anyone use like WordPress or, oh, cool. All right. So never mind. Anyway, my point was going to be that anywhere there's a rich text box, you can add HTML code in. That's basically what that means. So if you use something different, or if you have your own blog or something, you can use rich text to make cool stuff with vibe code. When you get into your rich text box, what you're doing is adding source code. So anytime you are working in a LibGuide and you are typing things or adding pictures, the code is being made for you, right? That's what the Spring Share is doing, and that's your source code. So when you click on the source button, it's going to gray out everything, and that's where you paste your code. If that's not grayed out and you just copy and paste your code into that box, when you click save, it's just going to show you the code you pasted in, just like you pasted in whatever, right? So go to your source code, you add it in, save that up, and then you've got your vibe code, which could look something like this. If you've never looked at code before, it's very scary, right? It's very scary. It can be long. It can be super, super long. There's all kinds of weird symbols and things you don't know, but it's kind of cool because you don't have to. You can just carry on even though you don't know what you're doing. And so you just want to make sure that you're copying all of the code, nothing more or less than all of the code into your rich text box. So a couple of things, I don't know why that did that, but all right. So a few lessons learned. Especially if you don't normally work on your website, ask permission, right? Check with your IT, check with your LibGuides admin, just be like, I learned I can vibe code, and so I'm taking over. So just make sure that that you get permissions, that you get set up with the sandbox so that you can practice in a safe place. It's always a good idea to keep your previous code. Often you'll kind of hit a point where you think it's perfect and you make a change and then it turns out it screws the whole thing up, and it's nice to be able to go back to the previous one that you liked the best. When I was running through the LibGuide, there's a way to sort of add new rich text sections one after another. I would advise making a new box every time. Sometimes code interferes with each other. And so if you're always making a new box, it will kind of be more contained in that box, and then you're not having to move it around. It may take a super long chat to get the result you want. Oh my gosh, Palash, I was so close. She had a 28-page conversation, right, with her AI to fix something super normal, right? It's going to take a long time. You're going back and forth with it. You're copying and pasting code. And so your chats can get super long. And one thing that will happen, I don't know how many of you use AI a lot, but the longer your chat gets, the slower it gets. Sometimes to the point where it's like giving you like one letter at a time as it's going. And so every time you start a new project or a new sort of a box or something you're working on, start a new chat. It's going to run faster. It's going to be less confusing. You can label them so you can find them later. It really is a good idea to take these little projects and keep them separate. So like, for example, I worked on our streaming video page. Instead of just these big horizontal lists of links, I made these resource cards. This was in a totally different chat than the one I made of the link list, the one I made of the research reading room questions. So just keep those separate and it will really help you out. A couple things, if you're not familiar with AI, you're not sure, here's just some tools to try. Like I said, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, which is very Microsoft-y. And I will say, and everyone has a different view of AI and how it should be used, and that's a personal choice. But I will say to remember that there is a really big difference between free and paid accounts. You're going to get better results with a paid account, but some people aren't comfortable with having an account or having a login. So just keep that in mind as you pick a tool to use, that it is going to make a difference. But often also remember that a lot of institutions subscribe to tools, right? So I work at West Point. Copilot is given to everybody, right? And so it could be that your school has a subscription to ChatGPT, and these actually can be very secure AIs where you can put information in them that's not going to be used for training data. It's not going to be shared with anybody. Your information is not sort of out in the system. And so just be aware of what you always be aware of what you're putting into an AI, and just remember that there is a difference, right? ChatGPT is not the same as the paid version. And also, if you tried AI before, especially a while back, and it was annoying and you hated it, try it again. It is different, right? AI from 2 years ago is not the AI right now. It has gotten so much better, sometimes in a scary way, but just keep that in mind. Just practice caution, right? You don't know what you're doing, right? Code is something, if you don't know how to code, you only know that your code is working, not what's going on with it. So use it for low stakes tasks, small projects. Don't try to put like a student gradebook in your AI, right? Just use it for little things, small things, and that will help you. Any questions? Yes.
When you got started on a page, did you just have to feed it like URL to that page and it went and found the source? Did you have to copy the source code out of the current page and feed it in and save it?
So I've done it both ways. When if I already have like a list of links that I already know are correct and there's no bum links in there, I will copy and paste the code because then I don't have to go and find the links again. Sometimes I put in screenshots and said, here's my information. I want it to look like this. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Copying and pasting source code is very helpful if you have it, but sometimes you don't, or only pieces of it work. I've done it both ways. Yes.
I'm not directly involved in this at my library, but a lot of libraries and institutions right now are looking at the web accessibility guidelines that are changing and developing.
Yes.
How does vibe coding have any effect, or the design that you're creating? How does that interact with those guidelines?
So the way that I work on it myself personally, the vibe code doesn't know about those. It can sometimes, like if you could input all that information, you could say, does this code meet accessibility requirements? But I'm not sure how well it will do that, right? And so it really is on you as the person who is putting the LibGuide up to make sure your site is accessible. And if that means going back in and saying the font is too small, or my contrast isn't good enough, or this, I need alt text for these images, that just would be your job. I would not trust the AI to do that for me. I would just make sure on my own end that I knew what the rules were and that my page followed those rules. Does that make sense? Okay. She asked about accessibility. Sorry. Okay. As I sit down now, I did, if you want to access this, I do have a couple little code snippets you can try. If you look at the slides, I have some code that you could copy and paste into your own LibGuides just to try, and also some prompts that you could try if you wanted to get started. So that's it. Thank you.